A slave ship has just risen out of the Hudson River in front of the Statue of Liberty.
Some deep shit.
This slave ship is proof that slavery is not history, it's reality. I'm Freddie, and the title of my poem is I'm Coming Out. The ghetto is a modern-day plantation. You can have a PhD, a six-figure income, and still be a slave in your mind. Bang! You don't know me when my divinity is deemed dirty. Bang! When they call my anger the black man's disease. Bang!
Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding a light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black and Brown excellence. Our special guest today to represent the Black and Brown excellence is Obie NAACP and AUDELCO Award-winning actor, singer, opera singer, author, playwright, composer, deaf poetry alum, and community activist. His talent is also extended to television, where he has written for various network and premium cable shows as, for example, The Good Fight, Your Honor, Law and Order, Supergirl, and Monarch. A graduate of Yale University and American Conservatory Theater, is a highly requested performer and a keynote speaker, not only all over the US, but in Europe and Africa. I am talking about Mr. Daniel KOA Beaty. Welcome to My Harlem Portrait.
Thank you, Maria. It's my pleasure.
I'm very happy you could make it. And congratulations for everything you do. I've been seeing quite a lot of stuff that you have been doing. One thing I want to start with, what does KOA means?
KOA means warrior, brave one. And during the pandemic, I visited the plantation where my great-great-grandmother had been enslaved in South Carolina. And I was met on the porch by an 88-year-old frail white man in a mask who was a historian from Yale, which is also where I did my undergraduate degree. And he hands me a book that reveals that when my great-great-grandmother, Lucinda Carson, was captured in 1816, wow, she was the daughter of a king in West Africa. And so when the Yankees came to Carson Plantation, they raided the plantation, and my great-great-grandmother had wore a royal shroud. She lived to be over 100 years old. The other Negroes knew that she was royal, and the Yankees actually ripped it off her body. The book says they danced around it in the horror to the other Negroes there, and they carried her royal shroud away. So it became my mission, even during the pandemic, to return my great-great-grandmother's spirit and to reclaim her crown, which leads to why my name is now KOA.
Thank you. This is a beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So you have written many critically acclaimed plays like Through the Night, Emergency, Mr. Joy, and The Tallest Tree in the Forest, Paul Robeson. And they have been performed at venues that range from the Public Theater in Lincoln Center to the White House and maximum security prisons. So you are a performer with a social conscience. You are a real artivist. That's what I call it.
I love that word.
So what pushes you to use your platform for this activism?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I think it's my life. It's my calling. I grew up really rough. My father, who was a brilliant man, battled with heroin addiction and was in and out of prison my co-life. And my older brother, 11 years older, followed in my father's footsteps and spent time in and out of prison. And what I was able to see very close up in my own family and then traveling as an artist in the world is that there's this legacy, unhealed legacy of slavery that is still creating trauma and impacting the lives of all of us as Americans because we're all connected, but obviously particularly Black people. And I saw in my father and brother these two brilliant men who lived in a world where there wasn't sufficient space for them to express their brilliance and to be their authentic selves. And the results of that is that they looked for ways to cope, looked for ways to manage the pain of the injustice and systemic inequity they were experiencing. And I've seen this pain, this trauma in so many people, so many Black and brown people. And it never felt right to me to just use my talent to entertain. It always felt that because I'd lived through these experiences, my opportunity was to use my gifts as an artist to shed light, to help people heal, to inspire hope. And then I also stand on the legacy of people like Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte. These are people that mentored me, that I sat with, who have provided me with a lot of wisdom. I literally am walking down the paths they trod. And so it's my absolute responsibility to be an artivist. I love that word you said.
Thank you. Thank you for this. Yeah, what you're doing is very, very important because you're using the power of your word and and the expansion of your word to share what's going on, and that's fundamental. The first time I saw you was a few years ago, and you were at the premiere of your film, Chapter and Verse, at MIST in Harlem. And this was a very critically acclaimed feature film that you co-wrote and you also starred in. Tell us a little bit about that, because that also was a very particular subject that you touched on.
Absolutely. So I co-wrote this movie with my big brother friend, Jamal Joseph. And we literally met and said, we want to make a movie. He would direct, I would star, and we would, both write. And so we began to explore what we would want to talk about. And Jamal was also incarcerated as part of his experience with the Black Panthers and the Panther Nine. And we both have real passion for prison reform and also real passion for showing who we are as Black people with layered humanity. And so we came up with a story of a man who's getting out of prison after 8.5 years, returning to a Harlem that has changed drastically and trying to re-enter society. And in the process of working his job that he must work while living in the parole house, he ends up meeting a woman who's dying, Loretta Devine's character, and an unlikely friendship emerges that creates life and energy and possibility for both of them. But in particular in this movie, we want to explore the complexity of re-entering society after you've been a felon and all the challenges that are presented. And then there's also a young man in the show that it's going down the same path that he went down. And we also wanted to show the cycle of how in our communities, poverty and neglect and a lack of opportunity can cause people to make similar choices that can lead to the similar outcome of incarceration. And how do we interrupt that cycle is one of the questions we were asking.
Yes, and you presented that situation in a very poetic way too. It was very, very beautiful movie. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
As I loved your recent show, your amazing performance of what you wrote, Love Warrior, at the First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem, directed by Jamal Joseph, co-produced by Voza Rivers New Heritage Theatre Group, in celebration of their 60th anniversary. During that show, you sang, you danced, you recited poems, spilled your heart, and got so much love back. It was so inspirational, it was uplifting, thought-provoking. You interpreted multiple characters. I had a friend from Italy with me who used to be my right hand when I was in the European Parliament. And he was like this. He just arrived that day and he left the day after. And I took him to see that night. And he was like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Beautiful. So the world is spreading everywhere. It's going to Europe. He now lives in Brussels. So
wonderful. Well, maybe you can bring me to Brussels. You know, I've performed a lot in Europe, but Italy is one of the places where I performed the most. And, you know, it's amazing how universal art can be. Like if we just tell, you know, a specific story and a specific experience, that it can reach people who may have had very different types of experiences. And it really blesses me to hear you say that. And then I saw another friend yesterday who's Jewish, and she had her niece in town from Rhode Island, I believe she said. And it was like her first day in New York as well. And she was really moved and excited about it. So I'm just really thrilled that as I tell this very specific story about my journey as a Black man in the world, as a Black artist in the world, that it's reaching people of such different experiences.
Yes, it's reaching and is bringing them to a different level of understanding that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Exactly.
And that's very, very, very important. And on top of being so amazing, this show that you did was free to the public. Yes. And you dedicated it to the community. So this is really incredible.
Yeah.
During that show, you, as I said, interpret various characters, and you also performed some excerpt from other shows. Tell us a little bit about them, because there is one show, Emergency, that you are gonna perform very soon in August, and we're gonna talk about that also afterwards.
Awesome. Yes, so as you mentioned, I've been creating work for a few decades now, and all of it really genuinely deals with the same thing, which is human possibility. How do we look at issues of pain, explore them with humanity, heart, sometimes humor, and find our way to some type of healing or transformation, whether that's an historical figure like Paul Robeson or Roland Hayes, two amazing artists that I've created work about, or if it's more contemporary themes. So Emergency, which is the show that I probably did the most excerpts of. Oh, I see you have breadth of imagination there. Is that what you were? That's wonderful. You did your research.
This is the book that my friend went and buy me the next day to thank me for taking him to see you.
Yes. So that's a piece that I haven't actually done in New York yet. I should consider doing that. But amazing artist. Highest paid singer in the world in the 1920s, a Black man, sang all over Europe, as we're speaking of that, was knighted by the king, and he was the son of a slave who went back, bought the plantation where his great-great-grandmother had been enslaved, and made it an international school of music.
Oh wow, this is a fantastic.
Yeah, and so that's the setting of the musical. It's a 3-person musical. and it's the moment when he's about to open this international school of music on the place where his great-great-grandmother had been enslaved. So, yeah.
Fabulous. You should do that in New York.
Thank you.
I want to see it.
And then Emergency, which is what I started with and did a few excerpts throughout the evening, imagines if a slave ship rose in front of the Statue of Liberty in present-day New York City. An ancestor sends it. It turns the city upside down. A lot of humor in the piece, which one might be surprised with a theme like that, but using the humor as a way to open things up and to allow us to go to some territory that may be hard to explore otherwise.
Yes. And you are going to perform Emergency on August 12th and August 19th at the Dwyer Cultural Center on 121st Street, the Ruby D place.
Yeah, exactly.
Magnificent name, magnificent place to be. And tell us a little bit more about Emergency.
Yes, Emergency is my favorite piece, I would have to say, and it's my signature piece. And I play over 40 characters in the show, and it's got poetry in it, it's got music in it. I use my body to move and dance a bit and transform. And this is part of my commitment to share with the Harlem community again. I was in LA for a while and COVID happened, and Love Warrior was free. This is a very affordable ticket prices as far as New York theater goes. And we're doing just these two performances on August 12th and 17th, August 12th and 19th, excuse me, to see, you know, if people want to come out, if people want to see this work again, and if the people continue to come and respond the way they did at Love Warrior, we will continue to create work and share it. And even Love Warrior, we're already looking at an opportunity to do it again. I did that night free because, you know, people are hurting and are in need of inspiration. And I was desperately in need of the opportunity to communicate as an artist. When we do it again, we will probably charge some type of ticket price because there's so many expenses. We had dancers and drummers and a piano player and a singer, and there's people running lights and sound. The theater is really a collaborative effort in this really wonderful way, but we still want to make it affordable to the community.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. No, there are not so many people who give a show for free like the one you did. So you can't expect to have them all free. Otherwise, what would you doing?
Right. I have to tell you, I love this sculpture in the background. It's amazing.
He is my protector.
Mm.
He is a warrior. I fell in love when I saw him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to buy, and I feel since I have him here, I know there is someone in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I really feel his presence. When I come back, I'll invite you to come and really experience him. And this artist has an incredible amount of work that he does. And I bought this at the art fair that is at, used to be the Black Art Fair at the church, at the big church in Harlem.
Riverside, maybe?
Riverside Church, exactly.
I would love to find out who that artist is.
I'm going to send you the information. His name is Woodrow Nash.
Okay, great, terrific.
From,
awesome.
I think he's from St. Louis.
Oh, wonderful, beautiful. You know, one of the things that is a constant theme in my work is either the presence of ancestors or writing about ancestors. And he definitely has that warrior ancestor spirit. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's always, when I do my shows, he's always there.
I love it. Perfect.
My angel guardian.
I love it.
You made a powerful documentary about the impact of mass incarcerations on children and on their families, which is titled Behind the Glass. Tell us about that and about your poem, Knock Knock.
Absolutely. Behind the Glass, again, is a collaboration with Jamal Joseph.
Oh.
And he worked as a director, and Cheryl Hill, who worked with us on Chapter and Verse, was also a producer on the film. You know, I'm a child of an incarcerated parent myself. Because of my brother's challenges, my nieces and nephews, some of them are children of incarcerated parents. And we hear about, you know, the horrific numbers, 2.2, 2.3 million people incarcerated, but we don't hear about the 2.7, 2.8 million children of incarcerated parents. And it has such profound impacts. There's the emotional issues of abandonment and not being able to have a consistent physical relationship with the parent, but there's also the absence of that income, which increases the stressors of poverty and neglect. And then there's the worry of, if I will become like this parent, is this my destiny? Is this my future? And a lot of my work is about voice to the voiceless. And so over the years, I've done a lot of work with young people who are children of incarcerated parents. Many young people are not as well. And in this documentary, we want to feature some young people in both New York and LA, the two cities where I've done a lot of work. And also we track my own relationship with my father. And my father post-prison still battled with some addiction issues, but really had a desire to be present in my life. So my request for my own safety was that he go to rehab if he wanted to have that relationship. So part of what we track in the documentary is also my father's relationship in response to my request that he go to rehab. So it's an intense piece, but I think it's an important piece, and it's one that we are going to revisit soon in hopes that we can get it seen by more people.
I really would like to see that because it sounds really very, very interesting. And I saw your poem, Knock Knock, which is about your relationship and then sudden impossibility of having a relationship with your father also.
Yes, absolutely.
That's how you came to this.
Yes, absolutely. So my father was around a lot in my early 1 to 3. My mother was a social worker, and my father was one of my primary caregivers while my mom was off working. And he would also wake me up every morning with a game. He would knock on my door, and I pretend to be asleep. So he got right next to the bed. I'd get up and jump into his arms and say, "Good morning, Papa." And then one day he didn't come. And as a 3-year-old boy who has this ritual, it's very confusing. And you don't really have language and ability to express, like, where is my father and where is this moment? And as a child, you don't have enough experience with the world to understand that things are not always about you. They're about other people and the challenges that they have. And my mom took me to visit him in the prison, and he was behind a glass. And I knocked on the glass, which is the title, and I could not reach him. And I used the pain of that memory that my father actually reminded me of when I was a student at Yale and I visited him in the prison. He reminded me of that moment. I took that metaphor and I zoomed out to the larger systemic issues of racism and poverty that impacted my father's capacity to even be present, and have that character speak to my younger self, knock down doors of racism and poverty that I could not, knock on doors of opportunity for the lost brilliance of the Black men who crowd these cells, knock with the diligence for the knock for the sake of your children, right? So he's.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm transforming the pain to power, you know, speaking to the direct experience that happens to me, but remembering that we are spirit beings who have the capacity to have agency and to rewrite the story and take control of our own lives and our own narrative. And I father myself and dream up a father that says the words my father did not.
Whew, I have figures. And talking about transforming pain to power, in February, Penguin Random House just published your empowerment book of the same title. So
yes.
Congratulations about that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I remember telling one of my producers that I was writing a memoir, and she says, "You're too young to write a memoir." And I thought to myself, I don't feel young. You know, a lot of the rough things that happen. But, you know, wherever you're standing, there is someone who can benefit from your story. I believe that about every single person. Everybody matters. Everyone's story matters. And as we share our story, we just remind each other that we're in this together and we're all connected to each other. And that was really the heart of that book. Like, how do I share my story, share the tools that are helping me survive, sometimes overcome, and hope that it will be of benefit to people.
Yeah. Help. In the fall of 2011, you launched a nationwide initiative, which was called I Dream, using the tools of storytelling to help individuals and community to heal from trauma. Tell us a little bit about that, because currently I Dream serves thousands of young people in 3 cities across America.
Yes, absolutely. So I Dream passion project, I, as a performer, would visit cities, and because people responded to the work, I would get to return to cities with another show, sometimes with the same show. And I would have people say to me, you move me so much with the performance and I feel so inspired, but what do I do now? So that had that experience. And then I also had the experience of being invited to a lot of conferences where there were conferences about incarceration where a speaker performed, or about young people, or a myriad of issues that Black people face. And one of the things that funders were consistently frustrated about is that they would fund these programs, but then people either would not take advantage of the programs, or they would start them and not finish, or the program would not have the impact that they wanted. And it came to me with a lot of clarity. I said, we're having leaf conversations and not getting to the root. The leaf conversation is teen pregnancy, gang violence, even racism, incarceration. Those are leaf conversations. The root conversation is, who am I? How do I see myself? Where do I access my power? And how do I use clarity about who I am to shift what's not working in my life and manifest what I want? So if you have a society that has for decades told people and told their parents that they're not fully human, that they're worth less, and then systemically and strategically given them less access to housing and jobs and even quality food and mental and physical health care, then you suddenly throw a program at them, you're reaching them at the leaf. You know, we've got to get back to the root and say who each and every one of us is God itself. We are birthed from the energy that creates worlds. We are the unlimited potential to create, do, or be anything. And anything else in this world or this society that tells you you're less than that, they are lying to you, you know. And what I Dream does, I dream, you dream, I am the author of my story. How do I viscerally reconnect to the truth of who I am and realize that everything else is a label, is a narrative, often inherited by systemic inequity, inherited by the families we grow up in. Everything else is made up. And I get to choose to erase those pages, rip out the ones that don't work, you know, and write and create the life I want for myself when I can connect to the truth of who I am, which is spirit itself, which is God energy, which is the unlimited possibility to create, do, or be anything.
Yeah, wonderful. So beautiful. So beautiful, so true, and so powerful.
Yeah.
We are coming to the end, and we are going to end with what you are currently doing. You are a co-writer of a Broadway-bound revival of the musical Paul Joy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about this, and I do want to go and look. So tell me about Paul Joy.
Yes, absolutely. So Paul Joy is one of those Broadway legendary musicals, and Frank Sinatra even played him in a movie. He's a total womanizer in the piece. And you know, the world has changed, as time has changed. And as I was brought to the project, invited to join the team of Richard LaGravenese and Savion Glover, who I really admire, and Tony Goldwyn, who's co-directing with Savion, who's also choreographing. The character, our Paul Joy is Black, and I really was interested in two things. One, what is the journey of a Black male artist in a world that's saying there's no space for you? We're not interested in what you do and what you have to say. And who does this man have to become? And what does he have to access in order to carve a space for himself? What is he willing to sacrifice in order to carve a space for himself? And is that sacrifice too much? Or does that sacrifice cause him to turn back to the truth of who he is because he sacrificed the wrong thing, which is his essence, his vitality, his soul? And I was interested in that. And the other thing is that I brought the character of the ancestor griots, again, ancestors. And so as he's in the world trying to find a way for himself in the 1940s as a Black artist, and they're saying there's no space for you. Well, there's a whole legacy of Black artists that came before him, and just the energy of creation and of spirit that's saying, we have your back. And if you stay true, and if you stay authentic, we're going to give you what you need in order to have space in the world. There's a line from the Bible that I love that says, your gifts will make room for you. And spirit helps him on his journey to make room for his talent. So that's what the performance is. It's going to be at City Center. And then again, the intent is to transfer it to Broadway.
Oh, fantastic. And when is it going to be?
It's going to be at City Center in November as part of their gala performances. And I didn't mention, which to some people will be the best part, we have the full catalog of Rodgers and Hart's music. So it's amazing songs like Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered, My Funny Valentine. It's incredible music.
Fantastic. So I know where I'm going to go in November.
Yes.
So we end this beautiful, beautiful, inspiring conversation. Thank you for giving us your time. Let's remind again, when you go and see Daniel KOA Beaty or Betty?
Beaty, you said it right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the Dwyer Center, it is on August 12th and August 19th.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
So thank you again, Daniel. And thank you to my viewers for following us. We see you for another episode of My Harlem Portrait. You can follow us on YouTube, on my YouTube channel of the same name, and on Spectrum every Saturday at 12:30 p.m.
Wonderful.
Bye, Daniel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.